Shalom, Chevre. Question. When did time become the enemy? We are so overprogrammed and scheduled. Do you remember when you were little and time seemed endless, those summers that went on forever? But now, I am not alone in being hypersensitive to timing at work. We burn hours just checking social media. Time even becomes this thief. It steals our very ability to heal quickly from illness or injury. And even worse, we can no longer eat an entire pizza and not suffer the consequences. But there is a reason for this love-hate relationship with time. And it all begins with this brilliant concept, this brilliant paradox. As children, we learn how to tell time, when in fact, we can't tell time anything. Now, if like me, you were raised in a Western society, we're not taught how to see the wonder and nuanced value in time. Why? Because a Western mindset focuses on getting things done. The actual hour, 2 o'clock, 7 o'clock, holds no intrinsic value. Sure, if you're on a deadline, or you're a 9-to-5er with your weekends off, then 5 o'clock on Friday, yes, it's going to feel very different than 5 o'clock on Tuesday. Great, hold that thought. Because fewer of us actually live a 9-to-5 lifestyle. Ask any parent or a student who works, healthcare worker, law enforcement, someone in the media, in the performing arts, whether they're on stage or behind the scenes, just to name a few. 5 o'clock on Friday feels no different than 5 o'clock on Tuesday. Now, the rabbis of the Talmud call this a clock day. It's just a reference for getting things done. But what if there was another aspect to time? One that held all that childhood sense of wonder wrapped in intellectual depth. Enter Luach HaShanah, the Jewish calendar. Luach, table, Shana of the year. Now, when I started cantorial school, I was given this incredible gift to live according to Luach HaShanah for 2 years in Israel. Now, if you're thinking, wait, I don't live in Israel, what's she talking about? This talk is not for me. I don't want to hear somebody talk about living in Israel when I don't live there. Well, I would say, wait a second. This talk absolutely is for you. You're the reason I'm here right now. Because that experience gave me very practical tools to apply to my life in the US. So see, you get all the benefit without the Middle Eastern commute. Now, you might also think, okay, well, someone immersed in Jewish culture, like a cantor, keeping Jewish time is really easy for you. Well, you may have never considered this, but clergy work on Shabbat and holidays. We work on Shabbat and holidays. So these few concepts have really helped me and others I've taught, and I'd like to share them with you. This first concept, realize Jewish time exists. It's a mindset. You don't have to do anything. But part of our Western mindset, we're always thinking about the clock, that clock day, that tick, 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 right? Got to get this done, got to get that done. In realizing that Jewish time exists, we want to reorient that mindset and to see that great expanse and to know that we are part of something much larger by way of Jewish time. So let's start with the days. If I say to you, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, doesn't hold a lot of intrinsic value. And in fact, if you Google Monday blues, you will come up with a litany of articles about depression in the workplace. And I would say that part of it has to do with this countdown clock. People feel that they're under so much pressure to get things done that they start the week depressed. But check out what the Jewish calendar does. We start fresh, Yom Rishon, the first day, Yom Sheni, the second day, Yom Shlishi, the third day. You see, it's actually a count up, not a count down. Because every day is set in relationship from Shabbat. So you actually are raised one rung higher spiritually until we get to the end of the week and we get to that radical Jewish concept found in the Torah, Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, and on the seventh day, God rested. Yes, God rested. Now, even if you don't believe in God, that powerful metaphor of an omnipotent creator needing rest, how much more so do we limited humans? But our Western mindset tells us we can't possibly take a day for ourselves or for our families or for our community, much less do it every week. And I understand there are legitimate challenges. So I started really small. I'm a cantor, music's everything. On Shabbat, I only listen to classical music. The rest of the week, it's all other styles, but for that 24 hours, that's what I do for myself, and it doesn't cost anything, and it does not require you to become any more Jewish than the Pope. So that's the days and the weeks. Let's take a look now at the months. If I say to you, March 1st, August 1st, might not have a lot of meaning unless it's your birthday or a special anniversary. But in Judaism, the beginning of the month itself is based on a lunar cycle. That in and of itself allows us to have a holiday at the beginning of the month, and it's called Rosh Chodesh. And all it requires you to do is to look up and to see the night sky and your place in the universe. You see where we are in the seasons. Now back to that whole lunar cyclical time for Rosh Chodesh. This is associated with women and women's needs, and there are support groups. There are Rosh Chodesh groups where women get together and talk about their lives. And I'd encourage you to check one out near where you live. But if there isn't anything, or you're not a group sharing kind of person, there are other ways to engage with the month, because they take their character from the holidays that fall within them. Even if you're unfamiliar with the holidays or you don't know all of them, the Jewish calendar will be a guide. But I want to give you one example to understand what I'm talking about. So let's look at Sukkot, right? The Fall Harvest Festival falls 4 days after Yom Kippur. You've got sustainable harvests. The sukkah itself, booths, simplifying your living space. Or the ushpizin, the ushpizin, these are the symbolic guests we invite into the sukkah each day. Hospitality. Whatever part of the holiday you take meaning, that's going to allow you to set time aside. And besides, every holiday has awesome food, right? So just knowing where you are in Jewish time is part of being Jewish, which leads to this second concept, claim your birthright. Now this is about language and giving yourself permission to use it. Years ago, I threw the word Saturday out of my vocabulary and only say Shabbat. It makes for some interesting conversations, but it doesn't matter whom I'm speaking with, because if I have to redefine it, it just impacts its meaning even deeper on me. Saturday is a great day for getting things done, paying bills, laundry. Shabbat isn't. Now that might be too much for you. Okay. So think about this. There's a concept that I used to think with a lot of Jews was an event, Oneg Shabbat. It's where you went to eat bagels after services. But it turns out Oneg Shabbat is not a place. It's actually an action in time. And it means to honor Shabbat, to bring something into your home to honor Shabbat. Now, in Mishnah Berurah, which is an early 20th century rabbinic commentary, we're taught that on Wednesday, we're supposed to think about Oneg Shabbat. Wow, this is Jewish time management, folks. Think about this. Wednesday as a spiritual deadline. If you can move some of your errands to midweek, well, that is going to free up your time. And then you will have time for spiritual renewal for yourself, for your family, for community. Now, part of this living in a communal lifestyle, right, that is part of Jewish time as well. And that has nothing to do with the calendar. Jewish time is ingrained into who we are as a culture. When we see a woman who's pregnant, we don't say Mazel Tov. That means good luck. The response is B'sha'a Tova, or B'sha'a Toiva, depending on how Ashkefarb you want to be, which means that the baby should come in the right time, in the right hour. Yes, it's a greeting, but it's also a prayer to the expectant mother to reassure her that the baby will come in the right time. And this generosity of community is a huge part of Jewish time, which leads to my last concept, your role in Klal Yisrael. We are part of a people and a community that runs on an alternative calendar. And how we choose to mark time, that helps define who we are. Do you observe July 4th as an American? Or maybe it's July 14th if you're a French citizen for Bastille Day. So I know you're sitting here thinking, yeah, I get this. But some might think this is just too much. I have so much on my plate, there is no way I can possibly add something else. And now you're asking me to look at a whole other calendar. Well, trust me, Jews of every age and place have lived with competing responsibilities. But we've never lost our sense of Jewish time. We just live a bifurcated existence superimposed on top of it. So one last text study. In the Mishnah, in the first Masechet of Brachot, there's a question that when do we, as Klal Yisrael, the Jewish people, join together for morning prayer? And the answer is when you can see Patil Techelet, when you can see sky blue. Now, what does this have to do with your role in Klal Yisrael? You may have zero interest in joining a prayer group in the morning. But this Mishnah, among other things, comes to teach us that we are to be present. We are to be attuned to the world first thing in the morning when just there's enough sliver of light that allows our eyes to see color. Now, you may not want to just jump right out of bed and look up at the sky. That's fine. But the point is to be grounded. You can put a picture of nature by your clock or your phone. Maybe program your alarm to a beautiful piece of music, and that can ground you. And it will connect you with Klal Yisrael, Jews all over the world who first thing in the morning are attuned to the world, to God, and to each other. So to recap, this feeling of being part of Klal Yisrael and knowing that there's Jewish time. As we realize that Jewish time exists, get a Jewish calendar, download an app, put something on your refrigerator. But just seeing it every day is going to help reorient that Western mind frame. And then you add bits into your daily planner, right? Rosh Chodesh, Oneg Shabbat, all these different things to remind you. That second area, claim your birthright, use the language, it's yours. Oneg Shabbat, Rosh Chodesh, Shabbat, and all these other concepts that await you the more you engage with Luach Hashanah, the Jewish calendar. And finally, your role in Klal Yisrael, just an awareness that Jewish time exists and begins the moment you wake up. That alone connects you to the Jewish people. So, final image. One day in Jerusalem, I stood and I waited for the sunrise over the Kotel, over the Western Wall. And there was a moment where it looked like sparks from the sun hit the top of the wall and the day just burst forward. But to me, the image was like the fingernail of God just scratched the surface of the earth to ignite the day. That's the splendor of Jewish time. And it doesn't matter where you live. It matters when you live. Thank you.